Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Rick Ackerman, editor of the newsletter Rick's Picks, his website, rickackerman.com. Welcome back to the show, Rick.
Always appreciate the opportunity, Jim. Thanks for inviting me on.
Rick, 2 days down on the major stock markets. You were saying if they hit a third one, this would be something really unusual in a time when it seems there's nothing but record highs.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, I do a session each month for what I call request sessions. So people come in, they ask me about stocks they're following. And more interesting than all that really was the fact that we're having a second day of weakness. And even that's fairly rare. You know, when you have two consecutive closes, down days in the broad averages, it's more unusual than you would think. And if you look for a third consecutive day, which is what we'd have if we're down tomorrow, that's almost non-existent. So I hesitate to say that it means anything in a market this nutty, but I think it's definitely signs for, it's a cautionary sign.
Is this a time to, well, it's not May yet, but we're getting close, sell in May and go away?
That's worked so well for so many generations, you know, it's hard to ignore it. On the other hand, when too many people ignore it, this market could blast off for outer space over those so-called summer doldrum months, you know. So I'm not sure I would just sell in May and go away. The market's too wild for that, really. But that old adage has certainly worked many times.
Something that's a little different this time around as well is the rotation out of certain stocks and sectors. Can that keep a stock market overall alive and vital instead of, well, this one hot sector that everybody was pouring their money in has gone down, so it's going to take everything down with it?
Yeah, I like to talk about that subject with my own subscribers. You know, I think rotation is usually a good indicator that I'm going to say all is well, but it just means that the crooks are still very much in charge. So on days when you see, let's say, the small caps getting pummeled, but the NASDAQ and I mean really pummeled, but NASDAQ is holding tough, it really means that the sleazeballs that control the markets are very much in control. And even though there is more or less infinite money out there to throw at stocks, as they go higher and higher, as you can imagine, it takes more and more money to levitate stocks like Amazon that are trading for $3,000 and Google. So even then, just to kind of husband their resources, the dirtballs have a way of rotating from one group to another. And, because because we can only ascribe simian intelligence to most of these guys, they're not capable of following more than a single theme at a time. So they'll sort of get on one track, like buying the small caps, or they'll say, we're going for value over growth, and they'll work on that theme until it gets tired and they decide to do something else. So that's genius at work, producing what have been phenomenal returns over the years because of that rising tide floating all boats.
Now, it was a year ago that the April oil future market went into negative territory, something it had never done before and it hasn't done since. Could that happen again this year?
Well, just out of the blue, I don't think so. I mean, crude's gotten a push really in two ways. Number one was a kind of knee-jerk response to, well, let's buy something in the way of resources, something real to hedge against inflation. But the other part of it, another story that's starting to cook or fester, depending on how you look at it, is the supposed Chinese recovery. So China, being the largest energy consumer at the margin, they're really the ones who price energy resources. If the economy is starting to heat up, that's certainly a factor, in oil's rise. So on the other hand, it's hard to credit anything you read about a Chinese recovery, and to sort out one type of recovery from another, meaning, is this just a recovery in financial asset inflation, or is it the real deal? Do we have kind of a manufacturing recovery taking place? Well, if in China, that basically means globally.
Well, of course, you can't trust any numbers that come out of China, and the best example would be over the last, I would say, 10 years, they would predict we're going to have 6.7% growth. And of course, precisely a year later, they would announce we had 6.7% growth. Precisely. No more, no less. So how could they fudge the numbers in a way that wouldn't be obvious to us?
Well, however they're fudging them, you have to pay attention. It's a little bit like the old days with Kremlinology, where you'd sort of look to see who was up there on the reviewing stand, and that counted for more than whatever you might be reading in Pravda. So when the Chinese talk, that the statistics are in some way either approximating the truth, or in Federal Reserve-like fashion, they are trying to mold expectations. So it's really, ultimately then, it's no more difficult, or no easier, I should say, to read Chinese stats than it is to read U.S. stats. Their unemployment figures are probably as good as ours.
I've heard there's a shipping container shortage. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, that's always been a problem, and it's kind of a one-way problem. I have a buddy who's an industrial engineer, and he was approached by a Chinese client to build a collapsible container because so many come, filled going from China to other places, U.S., and they get sent back empty. So, I'm not sure why we have a shipping container shortage, unless in the investment cycle we had a down period that has caused a true shortage. But these days, who knows really what any shortage is about, including I hope you're stocked up on toilet paper because of because of lumber prices and everything else.
Sure, you need trees to make the TP.
Trees are corn cobs.
And speaking of trees, lumber mania, is there a real reason for it? Are we doing that many home renovations and building so many more new homes?
It's hard to say. Does the lumber cartel, if it exists, have the same control over the markets that some of the energy cartel players do? Can they manufacture artificial shortages? So no matter how you slice it, even if there is a really crucial shortage of lumber, the futures prices they've gone beyond the hereafter. Whatever the discounting seems to be beyond whatever shortage could actually occur in real markets. So I don't know. I mean, we were talking earlier, you said that Canada's home building is going gangbusters, and I'm not quite sure how things are going in the U.S., but it's a factor. But we've got other, let's say, inflation fears that are driving the markets as well.
We'll have more with Rick Ackerman right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. I'm speaking with Rick Ackerman. Going back to lumber, I'm hearing that they closed down a number of BC sawmills last year, over the last few years, and so far there are no plans to revive those shut down mills. And I don't think it's due to a shortage of lumber, especially at these prices. So is this one of the ways that they can manipulate the price and keep it high? Just don't saw enough lumber.
I suppose so, but, these prices, are the lumber sellers, are they trying to, they're typically going to be hedging in the futures markets themselves, but I wouldn't think that, shutting down the mills is a great way to drive a shortage. It seems like it could backfire on them because they won't have enough product for sale.
What's China's demand for lumber like? We haven't heard any discussions about that. And I watched them load the raw logs from BC onto ships here, and they're processed in Asia. They're not cut up here in BC. They're raw logs.
I heard that raw logs are relatively cheap. I don't know whether that means for firewood. And I don't really know what the building cycle, the residential construction cycle is doing in China right now. Periodically they put the kibosh on borrowing for speculative building of homes, but I don't know, the extent to which genuine demand from China is driving lumber.
Getting back to energy consumption, China's the biggest energy consumer on the planet. Are they sucking up a lot of oil now, and will crude prices go up?
Well, I would say the prices have hit a ceiling for the time being. I mean, we need quite a resurgence in global manufacturing to justify prices remaining above $60 a barrel. So I don't know, but the markets are so crazy, really. It's very hard to sort out the supply and demand factor from, let's say, demand for commodities and paper energy. So I don't know. I just I say that energy prices have topped, but I wouldn't bet the farm on that.
We'll have more with Rick Ackerman right after this.
Ackerman Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Ackerman's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at ackermanresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Rick Ackerman. Rick, what's going on with the junior mining space, especially gold and silver?
Well, the mining stocks have been hanging tough, on days when bullion has looked relatively soft, especially over the last couple of weeks. The miners have not looked too terrible. And, we may be, I hesitate to say we're finally getting a bottom off a long correction that's occurred in bullion prices. But, silver seems to have made a stronger turn than gold. But I would say I'm mildly encouraged right now in the precious metals. In fact, we're getting rallies that take out prior peaks on the lesser charts. And when that starts happening on the daily charts, then maybe we've really got something going that could finally take the price of gold up above $2,000 an ounce.
What's going on with cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin? They're still using the argument that Bitcoin is a safe haven and better than gold, but all I can think of is one major power failure, or you lose that little piece of notepaper that had your cryptocurrency special code number on it, and you're broke.
Well, they've flattened out. There's so many different versions of Bitcoin, blockchain money, that there are a lot of symbols. And the one that I track is BRTI. It takes the best bids and offers over many different markets and gives you the price in real time. And it seems to be pretty strong. In fact, I'm on a buy signal right now, and I've got an unfulfilled so far projection of $72,000 for Bitcoin. But many of the individual symbols, like Doge, like Riot for one, is something a lot of my subscribers follow, and some other blockchain symbols look pretty bogged down to me. They don't look like they're going anywhere. So there's a little bit of a divergence there. And the paradox is, Bitcoin was supposed to be become valuable because of its scarcity, but there are supposedly a couple thousand different types of blockchain money out there, and I guess they're all competing in the same space, more or less.
Is there such a thing as a safe haven right now?
Well, again, this is something we've talked about a couple of times. I like the combination of gold versus treasuries, and I call that a barbell. And whatever's coming, disaster, inflation, deflation, I think that barbell is nicely positioned to benefit from one or the other or both. And so it also meets the description of a couple of asset classes that everyone hates right now. And so I think it's a good time right now to be picking up gold with the idea of building against it a hedge in long-dated treasuries.
Rick, anything else we should be keeping an eye on right now?
Well, let me just return to what I mentioned earlier. It's like we're having a second day of weakness in the broad averages without too much in the way of rotation. And if we get a third tomorrow, that would be pretty interesting. It's a real rarity when bears have 3 consecutive days of feeling good. So yesterday, kind of marginal. Today, feeling a little bit better, but I got a yellow flag out on the market right now.
Rick, thank you so much for chatting with us.
All my pleasure, Jim. I appreciate the opportunity to connect with your audience.
My guest has been Rick Ackerman, editor of the newsletter Rick's Picks. His website, rickackerman.com. He was speaking to us from South Florida. If you have any questions for Rick or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.